Hi, everybody. This is day 1226. 1226 days. Just about that we've been doing this. Richard's Code Red, forced disappearance, forced removal, I should say, forced removal, and the retaliation against a whistleblower that led to his murder. And, it doesn't, reading the news today, it's very clear that, DA Bill Hicks, and I want to talk about Bill Hicks just a little bit because he is not elected, okay? He's appointed by a Republican governor, and I'm only saying Republican Governor Greg Abbott, just to distinguish. I mean, at this point, I don't want to say it doesn't matter at all, but he is appointed by Greg Abbott, and this was after the forced removal, like Richard, that forced removal. Richard whistle blew a little bit too much, right? He whistle blew. He blew the whistle in the wrong places. He pulled on the wrong strings, the ones that were committing crimes that were related to the Patrick Crucius case. And so, I don't know what comes first. I'm thinking, I always thought the Patrick Crucius case came first. But with all of this retaliation and with the whistleblowing, I'm not quite sure because of what we were hearing from Richard while he was deployed to Qatar. So it's a little confusing, and we're looking into what came first, the Patrick Crucius case or Richard's case. We do know that they are intertwined because they have the same, they're just surrounded by the same people. And we believe that there were additional crimes. We're not saying that Patrick Crucius is innocent, not at all. He is absolutely guilty, but I think that it would be short-sighted to think that people wouldn't take advantage of what was going on to commit more crimes. And I think that there were additional crimes that were committed in the Walmart mass shooting case beyond Patrick Crucius. And those that committed the crimes are involved in committed crimes and the forced disappearance of Richard. And I just think it's interesting that we have a DA that was placed by Governor Greg Abbott there in El Paso to replace Yvonne Rosales, a Democrat, a duly elected Democrat, a duly elected female, the first female and Hispanic at that, for El Paso. And she was definitely elected. She was in place. And the point that I want to make is that she was forcefully removed politically for, not doing her job, right? Not doing her job or whatever the media, who we cannot believe at all. And I'm thinking of Bob Moore right now. because Bob Moore, um, if you look it up, he was doing some posting himself, and right after he kind of researched taking down a duly elected, in this case, first Hispanic female uh, number one law enforcer in El Paso. Um, 2 days later, he put out the petition through his El Paso Matters to ask for her removal. Um, you know, this is manipulating the population, of course. And I'm not saying that uh, I don't know, that's just a regular thing in life, right? Is to manipulate the population. I mean, you have to be just living in a very secluded area not to be manipulated somehow by your society, by, um, where you live. And so, but in this case, I think it was not for good intentions at all. And okay, so let's say he was really concerned about the crime, and especially the Walmart crime, mass shooting crime. Let's say Bob Morris was very concerned with that, which I do not believe at all. But let's say he was. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt, and that he was right to, criticize and say she wasn't doing anything. Um, uh, uh, Yvonne Rosales as the DA. Um, let's say that. Well, wait a minute. Where is the same scrutiny for Bill Hicks? Where is the same scrutiny for Bill Hicks? That's what I want to know. Okay? Because Bill Hicks has absolutely no control of law enforcement in the El Paso area. And how do I know this? Because I get sent all of these articles. You can say, oh, maybe you're being manipulated. But I also have people in El Paso. I have boots on the ground in El Paso. I was born at White Sands, Missile Range in New Mexico. My dad was, I lived on I lived on Shed Road, not Bliss Road. I lived on Fort Bliss on Shed Road when I was a girl. I went to Bassett Elementary School. I went to MacArthur Elementary School. I went to 8th grade at Bassett. Um, I swam in the replica. I was part of the Sand Sharks, the El Paso Sand Shark swim team. Absolutely, I know the area, and uh, so what we're being proven is that Bill Hicks has no control over law enforcement, and that's his job. He's the chief law enforcement officer for El Paso, being the district attorney, and he has no control. We have out of control murders, out of control crime, and out of control security issues, breaches in security. And, today was a good example. A very, very brutal murder happening um, with inmates in the prison there. And, so even prisoners, and this is not just any attack. This was about 50 minutes. 50 minutes of an inmate being attacked. The attack lasted 50 minutes. And so, are you telling me that in a prison, they can't do anything for 50 minutes? Um, it's just really brutal. And so this is telling us that Bill Hicks absolutely is not doing his job. Now, there is real questions around Bill Hicks and if he is really legally, or if there's um, some weird things, irregularities surrounding him that uh, would say that he was not legally the DA and that that rightful seat is still Yvonne Rosales. You know, we also have information that Yvonne Rosales, uh, this is just my train of thought here. You have Bob Moore of El Paso Matters scrutinizing, rightfully so, the duly elected, first Hispanic female um, DA of El Paso, not being satisfied with her job. He called for, like a little research, and then 2 days later, he called for her removal in a petition, right? Um, well, you have all the evidence, all the evidence of a failed DA in Bill Hicks, all the evidence of it. And in our son's case, especially, all the evidence of a failed district attorney. Okay? A failure of a district attorney. And I would even call it worse in our son's case. But let's just leave it at that. That you have all this evidence with all the crime going on, and the gangs, they're no longer just, wanting to be heard and wanting to come together and, of course, engage in criminal activity. But they're starting to morph into like cartel presence. And this is very concerning for El Pasoans and the surrounding area, right? So what this is, and then you have not even the inmates having somewhat of a security. 50 minutes of a vile, vulgar, very, very violent attack um, in a prison. Uh, it just makes you look at Bill Hicks, DA Bill Hicks, and say, okay, is Bob Moore satisfied with his job? Because Bob Moore is not complaining about Bill Hicks, is he? He's not complaining. He's not scrutinizing Bill Hicks. I don't see him put out any kind of petition, even though El Paso's having, what, 5 murders a week? 5 murders a week. And, Bob Moore's okay with that. Seems like Bob Moore's okay with that. To have these murders, to have, he's not scrutinized. The point that I'm trying to make is there's a double standard here. So why? Why? And am I going to be satisfied, should Team Find Richard Halliday be satisfied to just leave it at that, that there is a double standard here? Or is there something more? And I believe there is something more going on, right? Absolutely, there's something more going on if there's going to be a double standard. Why is there a double standard for Bob Moore? And what was Yvonne Rosales? If he was going after Yvonne Rosales, and I'm on now. I see everybody. Thank you, Mitzi. I see you, Marilyn. Thank you so much. Good evening to everybody. I see you now. But do you understand what I'm saying? Is if there's a double standard, why is Bill Hicks okay? And I will tell you right now, Bill Hicks is not doing his job. He's absolutely, in the Richard Halliday case, He is not doing his job. So if Bill Hicks is okay to Bob Moore for not doing his job, and he's not scrutinizing him, he's not criticizing him, then was what was going on with Yvonne Rosales, right? Was she doing her job? You know, uh, I know in our case, they project, right? They have lied about Richard over and over again. Um, the I would say the criminals that don't want us to look into Richard's case. And when I say we, of course we are his family, but I'm talking about the vast public. The vast public, they have tried to sabotage the minds, the hearts of anybody that would want to care about Richard by painting a picture that is so bad of Richard because they don't know Richard, right? They don't know him. So they want to paint this picture of him so that no one would even care. That's what they were trying to do, is divert all attention, all care away from Richard. That was very clear to us, and we couldn't understand it because it was happening from his chain of command. And we were like, what is going on from the CID, from the law enforcement community? And this this lies to the law enforcement communities. I mean, my goodness, you had the chief of security of Fort Bliss say, uh, about Richard that he was just good food for a good meal for the coyotes. That he was a Vanessa Guillen case. Uh, you know, this arms room and dismembered case, but that he was just a good meal for the coyotes. I mean, my goodness, what kind of rumors did he hear? I mean, that's incredibly unprofessional, right? Incredibly uh, defaming of Richard, right? That is absolutely cold blooded. Um, call it what you want. It is really bad. It is really bad. And it shows such a lack of ethics and character from Thomas Kane. Okay, a real, how did he get his position and what was he doing in his position? But on to Yvonne Rosales, the duly elected first Hispanic female DA for El Paso, that very quickly was being hammered um, and scrutinized. Yet Bill Hicks, not duly elected, appointed by Greg Abbott, um, has done an absolutely horrible job because you have about 5 murders a week. And I can tell you in our son's case, it's a horrible job. And you have inmates that have no guarantee for any kind of law enforcement. They are sitting ducks. So let's join the perpetrators because I'm not going to have a chance. Criminality begats more and more criminality, right? And it gets very, very ugly where we're, descending into a dark abyss and we're gnashing our teeth and screaming out and crying. Um, so this is Bill Hicks is leading the way for El Pasoans to go into that black abyss where there's crying and gnashing of teeth because there's so much crime right now. And of course, we know that General Eisenhower is, not doing his job because there is all of these security breaches on Fort Bliss, right? Lots of security breaches. So, my thing is was Yvonne Rosales researching Richard's case? Was she researching the what happened, the incident that happened in the arms room. Did Was she researching Richard's remains? Was she researching 3705 Bliss Avenue, 3905 Bliss Avenue? Was she researching the Patrick Crucius case? Was she putting the dots together of the same people in the Patrick Crucius case and in Richard's case in 3905 Bliss Avenue, 3705 Bliss Avenue? Um, did she know about the transfer of remains? Which, by the way, we were told when it comes to the transfer of remains that we should ask Deborah Sarah West. Okay, we were told if we want to know about the transfer of Richard's remains, we need to ask Deborah Sarah West. Now, Deborah, Um, I don't know what that means. Well, maybe I do, but I just wanted to put that out there since they're very bold, very brash, and yet this, of course, Mario Rascon Ortiz. There's all kinds of irregularities, all kinds of um, in his case, um, there's something fishy going on, and you know, I don't know if Deborah Sarah West is connected through someone else. I don't even know if Bob. Can you imagine if Bob Moore would be connected to Deborah Sarah West? Can you imagine if they were connected? Um, if they were somehow working together with Angela Kachurga or whatever. I don't know. But I do know this, that he scrutinized Yvonne Rosales severely. And it was a much better time during that time than it is now. And he is not scrutinizing Bill Hicks. Um, uh, you know, and when you're dealing with elected uh, district attorney, I think you should have their back, right? You should have their back. But anyway, this is a duly elected also. So yeah, I think that has a lot of questions because was she investigating Richard's case? Um, we have been told that she was. Was she doing a better job? Would she have had a date already for a court case? Because Patrick Crucius case, right? And Patrick Crucius is guilty. He's already been found guilty, right? I mean, he already, and it's not my words, it's his own words. He already has admitted um, his guilt. And so he's guilty. He's admitted it. There's video footage. We've got the weapons, or law enforcement has the weapons, has the forensic evidence, has the victims, has all of that, right? So, and yet Bill Hicks can't get a court date in 4 years. We're in the fourth year. Year one has gone by, no court date. Year two goes by, no court date. Year three goes by, no court date. And this is costing taxpayers, and it's very interesting, millions and millions of dollars. You know, why is Greg Abbott funneling millions and millions of dollars to Bill Hicks for a very slam dunk case? Very slam dunk. Maybe it's not so slam dunk, right? Maybe it's shows an involvement with the Richard Halliday case, especially if Richard Halliday's case came before the Patrick Crucius case, right? If the timeline was before the Patrick Crucius case. Uh, so that is really interesting, thinking outside of the box um, information that we have gotten about Bob Moore and about Bill Hicks and about Deborah Sarah West, right? Deborah Sarah West. I mean, can you imagine? Uh, she knows about the transfer of Richard's remains. I, what kind of information is that that's coming in? Um, Richard's just supposed to be missing, right? Of course, you have Nadal Baim saying that the FBI found Richard's remains, and he's the father-in-law of Lieutenant Colonel Bradford Bugado, right? Of the G3 of the 32nd ATCOM, which they tried to tell us that he is, you know, he's distanced himself, they really have a strained relationship or whatever, but yet they go to Hawaii on vacation together as a family. I'm just saying, you know, I'm just saying. And nothing separates grandparents. Well, in my case, um, I don't know, and I think his case too. He likes his grandchildren. Um, you know, there's always these lies behind because that's clearly false information when clearly they're having a good time in Hawaii together, right? Um, so he's saying that the FBI, and by the way, that he was an FBI employee and that the FBI found Richard's remains. Then we have the PAO. Well, we called the Department of State there in Chihuahua, Juarez, Chihuahua, however you want to say that, to ask about that if the FBI had been looking for Richard's remains and found Richard's remains. And he said yes, the FBI had been looking for Richard's remains. Um, and then the PAO, Ali Payne, Lieutenant Colonel Ali Payne, also admitted that they were working with the Department of State looking for Richard's remains, right? And she also admitted that they were looking for Richard's remains there at Area 244, which is the mock Afghanistan village, right there on Fort Bliss. So, uh, you know, so the actions of uh, the law enforcement agents and the PAO, uh, and you would call a general, a first AD general, a law enforcement agent, would you? I don't know. I don't know. He's a general. Anyway, very crooked, dirty, a very dirty general that needs to be stripped. A very criminal, crimes against humanity type general. Crimes against humanity, like Nuremberg style. Let's take him to Nuremberg trial and let's hear it out, right? That kind of evil. Um, because it goes beyond Richard's case and how he's dealt with Richard's case is just abominable. So, um, I lost my train of thought on the really wicked, terrible general that now is in charge of Fort Hood, Fort Cavazos. Um, Christ have mercy, Lord have mercy, Christ have mercy on Fort Cavazos, on Fort Hood. Um, but we know that they were looking for Richard's remains. That Richard, it was not like, oh, Richard's just out there somewhere, right? And we have, of course, the paranormal, we have the tarot card reader, all saying that Richard's remains are there. Um, and we have more. Um, we have more. But we have the Thomas Kane, the DES, the Director of Emergency Services, the Chief of Security of El Paso, saying that Richard was a good meal for the coyotes. That's not a missing soldier, y'all. That is a dead soldier. And and then where are our open records, right? Where are the open records reports? So they're hiding the information. And what this is doing is giving a green light to all the criminals that crimes are not being taken seriously, crimes are not being investigated properly, that the Patrick Crucius case is a botched case, the Richard Halliday case is a botched case, and I would say many more botched cases. And so the criminals are so emboldened, and rightfully so, because now we have proof that they can, do a vile and vulgar, violent, very violent, super violent, mega violent attack on a fellow inmate for 50 minutes and nothing happens. And nothing happens to him. So I think that is, thank you, Omar. Keep fighting. Richard Halliday is super proud of you, Miss Halliday. I wish I could help in some way. Thank you so much. That means so much to us, Omar. Yeah. Um, and he's watching. He's watching, and I know that our daughter had a dream that he was going to tell a story. And so Richard will tell his story. And so, is it through us? I don't know. I don't know who it will be through. And someone out there is going to help, because the tide is turning. We've beat the whole COVID narrative, absolutely. And we've beat the January 6th narrative, right? The whole January 6th narrative has totally imploded because Nancy Pelosi with Chuck Schumer, um, with Pence, Vice President Pence at the time, were doing multiple recordings there from the Capitol to get just the right one. Just the right one. Now, that's a proven fact that they were staging their reaction. And I can tell you that really makes me upset because I was there. I was there. And I know that when you have a million people together, there are sometimes bad actors that want to take advantage of the situation of a million people. A million people. And of course, this is what happened in the Patrick Crucius case. It might be worse. It might be worse. It might have been all orchestrated. But, and I'm not crazy for saying that. Because the task force find Richard Halliday was totally orchestrated. It was totally orchestrated. From General McConville, maybe General Mealy, but I know for sure, absolutely from his own mouth, was General McConville and General Garrett and Lieutenant General Donna Martin and Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe. They are just criminals, absolutely criminals, to stage a task force without any op ward, without any uniform on, and they had no accountability at all for their duty, their obligation to care for Richard, and and even to respect the family, and they absolutely staged that. It is, there's no doubt to it, 100% they staged the task force find Richard Halliday. And so I don't know if they stage mass shootings. I don't know. These people are so evil. They don't care about lives. They absolutely don't care about lives. They don't care about quality of life. Um, and so it wouldn't, I wouldn't put it past them. But what I do know is, with the information that we do have, that the same people that are suspects and perpetrators and colluding in Richard's case are the same people that um, absolutely took advantage of the tragedy of the mass shooting at the Walmart there in El Paso. And millions and millions of dollars have been funneled to a slam dunk trial, and it has been dragged on so that they could live large on this tragedy and make the public suffer, right? By paying their millions of dollars of legal fees and whatever, because Felix Valenzuela is up to no good, okay? And DA Bill Hicks is up to no good. And so I'm just thinking that because they did not like Bob Moore, what does Bob Moore, I mean, uh, that Bob Moore didn't like Yvonne Rosales. What does Bob Moore have in on this? He must have, because, money is always what you have to follow. He must have some investments in a company that would be hurt by the pursuit of justice, and that justice would be served in Patrick Crucia's case and also in Richard Halliday's case. So, follow the money there. And maybe if you're living in the El Paso area, you can tell me, what that would be. What was the benefit of the Patrick Crucius case, financially speaking, for some kind of investor, right? Because I think Bob Moore might be connected to that. It would make sense why he wanted to bring down Yvonne Rosales. And he inserted himself into the Richard Halliday case, and he inserted himself into the Patrick Crucius case. And so he has invested interest. This is invested interest in these two cases. He's not just putting his whole career and his whole organization at risk because he wants to do a story. Okay. I just don't believe that. I don't believe that. It is very clear that Bob Moore needs to be investigated, and we have been told that the IRS is investigating him for his violation of the 501c3. And but and that would be the use of an unreliable source, which would be convicted criminal Leilani Hart, right, with her long history of criminal acts. And also, not just that, but the notarized criminal complaint that in her family was a child predator, was incest, were unregistered weapons, illegally bought weapons, and threatened against her, and a friend, an active duty member that was her friend's, that she go, oh yeah, just leave my kids with my pedophile incestuous husband, okay? um Everything will be fine. Well, it wasn't fine. The 7-year-old was then sexually assaulted multiple times by multiple members of the household in the master bedroom. Uh, yeah, so that's not a good friend at all. Um, and she didn't report it because, the whole notarized criminal complaint is really a confession of another crime that she committed, which is a failure to report. And she's saying she didn't report because he threatened her immigration status. So we'd like to know, what immigration status is that? Do you have an immigration status problem, Leilani Hart, who is the mother of Richard's platoon leader, Dallas Hart? Um, and so that is a lot of information there, and we've only just begun, because we've been told now that if we want to know where Richard's remains are, that Deborah Sarah West would know. Now, what does that mean? They didn't say Leilani Hart would know. Maybe Leilani Hart does know, but it didn't say Leilani Hart would know. It didn't say Jay Paulin would know. Maybe Jay Paulin does know, but it didn't say that. It said Deborah Sarah West. And we know that Deborah Sarah West is Corinne Adeline's daughter, and Corinne Adeline has been on this case from the very beginning. And it is curious that they have access. They have boldness, which means that they're connected. They're not afraid at all. They have some kind of immunity deal somewhere. Okay. They have absolute, I don't know if it's immunity deal. I don't think it's immunity deal, but like they're just bold, like they would have an immunity. They're just that brazen, like they would have an immunity deal. And so why? They must be connected. They absolutely must be connected. And it kind of, reminds us of other criminals today, that just feel like they are so connected that they will never be charged for their very serious crimes. And so I don't know. Deborah Sarah West is a pilot. So did she transfer Richard's remains? I don't know. I'm thinking out loud right now. Um, but we were told that she would know the whereabouts of Richard's remains. And that would mean that, is there a connection with Dr. Mario Rascon Ortiz, right? Is there a connection with Bob Moore? Is there a connection with Ann Ogle? Because, this whole thing of wanting, to research mass murders and, all this stuff that Ann Ogle does is just mind-boggling, and her connections. So, this is really our questions, because the crime is going absolutely crazy. And is that on purpose? Is that orchestrated, that we would have a do nothing DA, that we, as Republicans, go, oh, okay, well, he was appointed by a Republican, so we don't want to, we don't, we want to look the other way. But I can tell you right now that the El Paso people are suffering, and we don't want anybody to have to go through what we've been going through. And now, even if it's an inmate, but look at, was it Jesse Waters had Sammy the Bull on? I don't know if anybody watched that, but Sammy the Bull was in a organized crime in New York, and he said him and his guys were, I think he said his team, were choir boys compared to what is going on right now. Okay? Um, it was a very interesting interview. And I think it's very interesting for El Pasoans that know that there is some gang, some organized crime, in every large city, and of course in El Paso. But they were still Americana, and I don't want to make any excuses for Sammy the Bull. He went to prison and he paid the price. He served his time, and now he got out and he can be a productive citizen. Well, look at this uh, inmate that was just brutally, 50 minutes that they brutally tortured him and murdered him in the prison. And that is bold. They're saying to Bill Hicks, you're a clown. They're saying to our prison system, they're clowns, that they can't do anything, that they are in control. They're saying, we're like, yeah, we're in control. And so this inmate couldn't go and just serve his time and get out and start a new life because there's no safety. There's a breach of security in our prisons. And that goes to Fort Bliss also. Absolutely, these generals, and absolutely Major General Clem Coward, who participated with the vile and vulgar retaliation against Richard for nothing. For nothing. On July 7th, 2020, um, the Judge Alma Trejo, looked at Richard's case and went, this is a dismissal. This is a guaranteed dismissal. Now, there's some people out there that do not know what a pretrial diversion is, and I don't blame them because I didn't know myself. It took me years to understand what a pretrial diversion is, right? But a pretrial diversion is a guaranteed dismissal. It is Richard's exoneration. It's his freedom from any kind of allegation. And so that happened on July 7th, 2020, and it was registered on July 9th, 2020. And everything that Major General Clem Coward had done to Richard fell apart. What was he going to do? They still haven't done it. They still have not taken away that soup sandwich, that very unjust, vile, and vulgar permanent Gomar for something that Richard did not even do. Did not even do. Okay? The criminality is seeping into our generals. Our generals have become the criminals. They're 44 4-star generals. That's not including these 1-star, 2-star, 3-stars. The flag officers, right? We call them flag officers. No. You know why we call them flag officers? Because they have a little flag, right? When they're in office, you see the little flag with the 1-star, the 2-star, the 3-star, right? We have 44 4-star generals the last time I looked. And, they're all corrupt. Sorry. What are they doing? Generals and admirals, I should say admirals. They committed crimes against humanity. And Bill Hicks, we're just sitting there allowing Bill Hicks to turn beautiful El Paso and, all of our cities. And El Paso is an ancient city. It should be revered. That's why it has all those tunnels and everything. It's an ancient city. It has deep, deep history. History we don't even know yet. Okay, I know that area. I know what my father told me. I know about White Sands. I know about El Paso. It is a beautiful city. Just go into the Church of St. Clement. Look at the history. It's amazing. And everywhere you go there, it's amazing history. And they're turning that beautiful border city, right? That it seeps over, the criminality seeps over into Mexico and harms the people that live across the border that we need to have good diplomatic relationships with. Well, we're not doing ourselves any favor looking the other way when it comes to Bill Hicks or Bob Moore or Angela Kacherga, who's gotten awards for border reporting and all of this. But let me tell you what, she's dirty. In Richard's case, she's dirty, very dirty, obstructing justice, participating in the sabotage of this investigation, into getting to the truth. And now, uh, if you get caught and you are wanting to serve your time and then make a new life for yourself, you can't even do that without this huge risk of being murdered, very violently and in a very vulgar way, because our law enforcement whole security there is being flipped off. They're not afraid of them at all. They're not in control. They're just clowns. And that goes to the security on Fort Bliss. They're you've got the director of emergency services giving passes to party girls to come in and party during COVID. You have a 12-year-old, a 14-year-old living in the barracks being pimped out for a long period of time. Two soldiers in the barracks, right? And and we know by the reports and that is recorded in the film The Sound of Freedom that these children are being pimped out multiple times a night. And we're having that on Fort Bliss, and our barracks are flush with weapons that are not registered, and and that there's all kinds of narcotics and fentanyl laced medication where Asia Graham, uh, RIP Asia Graham. This is a breach of security. We have lots of equipment and weapons there. And what's happening? Because there's a breach and because of the falsification of records and documentation, we have a problem with weapons smuggling and ammunition smuggling, so much so that they fill up tactical move storage units. They fill up tactical move storage units with our taxpayers paid for these weapons and this ammunition to defend our country, and they're being smuggled out and sold on the open market. And I'm talking about huge, vast amount that now we have Grunt Speaks. We have leaders, the NCO leaders, saying that the leadership in the military was falsifying records of readiness, that our soldiers weren't even being given proper training before they were sent over to Iraq or Afghanistan. And, that's why they make sick jokes. They are sick jokes that the grunts on the ground are used just to number the body bags, to number the casualties. Now, we have a real problem. And then, the Army is like, well, we're offering all this money for people to join the Army, join the services, to volunteer, because it is a volunteer military, right? And they don't want to. Well, duh. The American people are not stupid. They don't want to join. And when they join, they're being told, these young people, that I don't think any recruiter should get anywhere near, and I think I have a petition for that, anywhere near a high school. I don't think anywhere near anyone that is under 20 years old, because they're being filled, and I will count this as Richard was told all these things, and he was so excited, and he aspired, and he got through basic training as number one, distinguished honor graduate. He was so excited. And he got through AIT as number one, the distinguished honor graduate for advanced individual training. But when he got to Fort Bliss, what did he get? He got a bunch of criminality, because the law enforcement is, you've got the generals, and you got Bill Hicks, at that time Jaime Esparza, and then all of a sudden you get this duly elected first female, Yvonne Rosales, and she starts wanting to do her job. I don't know, this is just what I'm thinking, because it is very interesting that she took Jaime Esparza's role, right? She beat him out, and then he comes out of retirement to be the Attorney General. What does he know? What does he know? Where the bodies are or something? What does he know? That he's going to come out of retirement to be the AG, the Attorney General. And he's doing a horrible job. He's doing a horrible job. Bill Hicks is doing a horrible job. Not a job, I mean, clown job. It's a stage job, a stage that, it's like shallow, it's empty, there's nothing there. There's nothing there. Tell me what's there. Because you have 5 murders a week? You have an inmate being brutally 50 minutes. You have Fort Bliss unsecured. You have the local gangs becoming very organized and almost cartel-like. For their survival, I guess. This is terrible for Fort Bliss. It's terrible for El Paso and the surrounding areas. And it's terrible going into Mexico. It's very terrible for families. It's terrible for children. It's very terrible for women. Look at how many women are being human trafficked, because mostly all human trafficking is women. That means they're being, sexually harassed, sexually assaulted. Um, so this is very clear that there is some other, and I think it's political driven. And, we heard today that the Biden family absolutely has taken money from China, has absolutely committed just the dirtiest crimes against us, right? And they're so brazen, right? They're kind of brazen. It just reminds me of how brazen, like this other group is. when you're talking about a missing soldier and a family trying to get to the bottom of a missing soldier, and they offer nothing, nothing but insult and vile, vulgar comments. Um, so, so we hear that our top leader is engaged in all kinds of criminal activity. It goes to what I was talking about last night. So is he going to do anything about it? He's going to appoint an attorney general that's not going to do anything about anything. It's going to be staged. It's going to be shallow. It's going to be empty. And of course, it's empty. And people are like, why isn't anything getting done? And then, you've got the AG there, Jaime Esparza in El Paso. And you're like, why isn't he doing anything? And then you got the DA, Bill Hicks. Why isn't he doing anything? And so when you see a person getting attacked by the media, like Bob Moore is coming out as a political attack machine, which is a violation of his 501c3, in order to attack and put out a petition against the DA, the duly elected first female Hispanic number one law enforcer in El Paso. It is curious, right? Especially when he doesn't know anything about Bill Hicks. Or what about Jaime Esparza? So it makes you think, okay, let me look behind this. What was Yvonne Rosales really doing? Because we know that media lies, right? We know that they lie. I mean, there's no other way to get around it. They are doing mind control. They're totally political, and he came out as a political attack machine. And we know that he came out as a political attack machine in our son's case to obstruct justice. And so this is, trying to let everyone know that this is not just about Richard Halliday and the Halliday family and Team Find Richard Halliday. This has to do with El Paso and Fort Bliss and the surrounding area and into Mexico. This has to do with every El Pasoan, every service member that wants some peace, right? That wants some nice quality of life, not having to worry about, uh, you know, uh, locking your door and looking over your shoulder if you're walking in the middle of the night, especially if you're a woman or, whatever. I mean, where is the law enforcement? And it seems like this is politically coming down from the top because criminals beget criminals. And they're not going to, just like, uh, so many in our son's case, if Major General Clem Coward is up to no good, he's not going to report other people up to no good because that shines a light on his or sets precedence on his activities. So, yeah, so this is why this is so important, and breaking this hypnosis on us to put up with this kind of theft, because we are paying these people. They're on a gravy train and they're not doing their job. Matter of fact, they are sabotaging the very job that they're supposed to do. And they're doing it on our dime. And they have forgotten that they work for us. They work for us. And, that's why this is so important for people to realize that I'm not just here, day in and day out, uh, just for Team 5 Richard Halliday, just for Richard. that this has broader implications. And that's how God works, right? We think it's just for our little lives or whatever, and God says no. It's a it's a much bigger implication, and and so that's why everyone should care. And that's why everyone, and I don't know if we're being blocked with that petition. I don't know if people are just sick and tired or just, feel like it won't help, or nothing will help uh, about signing petitions or writing letters or whatever. But this active duty soldier on Fort Bliss is very real. Do not believe any rumors. He is very real, and he needs your support. And no, I don't know him. But would it matter? Would it matter? Because I know a lot of people there. So would it matter? But I don't know him. And so I hope you sign that petition. And let me explain to you why, uh, you know, uh, going to trial, putting in a claim uh, so that we can sue and try to get to the bottom of this, why it's taking so long. Uh, uh, Richard's case is number one. For a long time, we didn't know what the heck was going on, who to believe, what the leads, and there were so many irregularities when it came to the CID. Now we know it was dirty agent Marlon Soto, dirty agent Tavita Nusa, dirty agent um, Jessica Veltri. I mean, Jessica Veltri's a dirty agent, y'all. You know, where's our summary? Where's the summary of the case? You know, um, how long does it take? It's been like 7 months, 6 months, 7 months since she promised, oh, this weekend I'll have that summary for you, that review. Um, you know, and they just lie, they just drag you along, they string you along, they tell you all these things about Richard. We've had to debunk, we've had to look into. We just didn't say, "Oh no, that's not possible." We were like, "Okay, let's look into everything. Let's have other people look into it." Okay? And going into the federal criminal database, that was helpful. The whole Interpol, the forensics that we did on the Interpol picture that seems to be Dallas Hart's face on Richard's Interpol picture, an overlay. So why is that? Because Richard's face doesn't even work. The forensics doesn't even work. There's no all the measurements are off, but they fit very neatly on Dallas Hart's picture, very neatly. How does that happen? And that's supposed to be on Interpol. Anyway, so we're in contact with Interpol. I don't know if they're doing an investigation. I have to ask my husband because he knows. So it's so there were so many things that we had to go through to figure out what we needed to do, and what we needed to do, um, because we had to kind of learn law. That's another thing. You get a degree in law because you figure out what my Oma would call selbst ist der Mann. Okay? Selbst ist der Mann. You know what that means in English? It means you've got to do it yourself. Okay? You've got to do it yourself. And of course, they made us our son's investigator, but we needed to do it ourselves as far as the whole learning the whole legal, right? Team Fine Richard Halliday, selbst ist der Mann. And of course, we have Team Fine Richard Halliday, people that we can trust. And we've had to write letter after letter after letter. Why? Did we expect to get anything back? Well, after years of not getting anything back, we figured it out that no matter what happens, all those letters go into the file. So when we get to court, and let's say we, we get Bob Moore in there because Bob Moore is the obstructing of justice right now, and we're in court and we're saying, well, didn't we contact you 9 times? Did you know that you were obstructing the justice of Richard Halliday's case? Did you know that you were using an unreliable source, a convicted criminal with a long, more than a dozen, long criminal history, all these different uh, criminal cases that we sent to you? Did you know? I mean, we sent it to you. Did you even read the letters? I mean, 9 of them? I mean, do you have a thick head? What or do you want to obstruct the justice of Richard's case? I mean, see, we have established that basis so that we can ask Angela Kachurga questions, and we know that we have done our due diligence to inform everybody, to inform the Department of State, to inform the Department of Justice, to inform the El Paso Police Department, to inform Thomas Kane. It's like, Thomas Kane, did you say that Richard was a good meal for the coyotes? Did you respond to our open records request? Did you say that Richard was like a Vanessa Guillen case? You know, don't you have access to all the video evidence? What is your relationship with Leilani Hart? Oh, really? Well, here's this kind of evidence that you're very, very, very close to her. And Olga, Claudia Guerra. I mean, what about Park University? What about Anna Whitehead? What about President Shane Smead? Shane Smead, let's get you on the bench, in the seat, right? Did you not know that this is a missing soldier that's presumed murdered? That this is an emergency? Right? It's just, and then, of course, UTEP. Of course, UTEP. Do you not have the means? Are you saying that you don't have the means? You're not prepared? You're UTEP and you don't have the means? I mean, don't you teach this kind of stuff? I mean, you should have the means. It's you have to, there's so many that we have written letters to over and over and over again, including Bill Hicks, including the AG, including the open records request, and especially for the monies, and we are getting institutional support. And it's very interesting how that's all playing out, because once you lay the foundation and they see it, oh my gosh, they've got a case and a half, because once you get into court, it's going to go 1,000 miles an hour. You better know what questions you're going to ask, what evidence you're going to present, because let me tell you, when we go to court, we want to win. We want to win. We want these criminals to be held accountable for what they have done. And we're going up against generals. We're going up against leaders of generals. We're going up against media. We're going up against, people that, it's like, oh, just throw your hands up. You're never going to win. There is no hope. No. God is our hope. And as long as there's a breath in us, we are going to lay the foundation, because there is no what is that, time limit on a murder case, right? And we're, so there's no statute of limitations on a murder case. But we are not bold. We are trying to stay very humble and ask and ask and ask. And every time we ask, like this, um, we didn't even ask this judge yesterday. We just wanted to inform this judge because as soon as we write the letter, it is an obligation that that letter gets into the file, is part of the file. So, and then it's documented. And so the point that I'm trying to make is one letter is not enough. Two letters is not enough. Three letters is not enough. One petition is not enough. Um, and you just have to know what you're dealing with. And you cannot give up. You've got to get good at writing those letters. And our lives depend upon it because we have people being murdered at such fast rates right now, raped, drug overdoses. We have so much crime right now. The child sex trafficking, the human sex trafficking, the child pornography. Um, you know, our lives depend on us being disciplined and saying, okay, at least 2, 3 times a week, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to find a way. If it's through in today's internet, you can use these grammar things, you can use all kinds of stuff and after you do it for like a month, you can get pretty good. You can be pretty quick and send off a letter. You know, send off a letter, sign a petition, uh, do that work because this is what they are afraid of. This, the public paying attention, the public laying down the foundation of their crimes, doing the alleged, seemingly, apparently, right? Yeah, it's been an education. So it's like, okay, I allege, seemingly, apparently, even if you know for a fact, you can say apparently, seemingly, and let's clean up our our home. Let's clean it up. And this is how we will get people to not hide anymore because the unit knows there are so many people, there are so many witnesses in Richard's case. They know, but they're shaking. I've never seen so many scared soldiers in all of my life. I'm talking about soldiers I thought that might wet themselves. Yeah, and then we have PP McGee, right? The SJA. The SJA. That is the Sean Bernabe, Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe's right hand lawyer. I've never seen so many shaky Jakes. Shaky Jakes. And so that to me tells us that there are those that want to do the right thing, that want to say the right thing, but they live in a hopeless world. They see the vast amount of crime around them in the institution at the higher ranks, and they just don't feel, because if you're a whistleblower, you might get killed like Richard. And it's not just that. You might get 50 minutes of torture, of vile, vulgar torture. And it's not just that. You might get months and months of retaliation, like Richard got. You might get set up for a false crime, like Richard got. And then they won't care. They won't even admit when they're wrong. And so people are tired of being retaliated against. I'm tired of people being retaliated against. And we need to have some justice. We need to have some accountability. We need to have a voice again. We need those that serve us to actually do their job. And, I don't have time to wait for them to all be replaced. They need to be forced. Even the evildoers need to be forced to do their job, to do it right. And I'm talking about evil crimes against humanity, Sean Bernabe. He's still there. Evil crimes against humanity, obstruction of justice, General James Eisenhower, 2-star. I'm talking about 3-star, the Inspector General of the Army, very evil crimes against humanity, and, Donna Martin, saboteur, Donna Martin. They need to be forced. Well, force is not a good word. Force is not a good word. What did Sean Bernabe say? Driven. They need to be driven to do their job because they work for us. They work for us. And a lot of people are being hurt because of their criminal activities. And, with time, we can bring them each to justice. And, that's my plan. Because I don't want any service member to have to suffer under them. And this has been, I just can't even tell you. And this is connected to the Patrick Crusius case. So that means that not only is it non-military, this is, when I look at it, I'm just like, okay, we're facing something bigger than a Goliath, right? Okay, God, it's all in your hands. It's all in your hands. What I want my son's remains, and I want accountability so that other people don't have to go through this. I mean, we're talking over 3 years, day in and day out, and I can't even believe our family has. I did not realize this has strengthened our family so much because we realize what a family can accomplish. What a family can accomplish together. It's under harassment, under threats, under the pressures of the day-to-day life. It's so, I hope that we can give other people hope. And we're not going to give up. God willing. I don't want to be brash. I don't want to be, I want to be humble. Humility in all things. I heard that today, and I think that is absolutely a great reminder from God. Humility in all things. And so letters, write letters, because I'm sure that you see something. It doesn't even have to be Richard's case. It could be in the Patrick Crusius case, or it could be in the case near you. And write those letters. Get other people to write them. Sign that petition for the active duty soldier. That is how you really support our military. Um, so thank you so much, everybody. I'm going to read your comments now. Good evening. Good evening. Keep fighting. Thank you so much. Thank you for your prayers. Thank you for your love. And it's been more than 3 years. They've had enough time to properly investigate and not keep playing evil games and putting your family and other soldiers through hell. They need to find Richard Halliday and bring him home. Absolutely. And I think what happened too is a lot of falsification of documents, tampering with remains, and stealing of identities. And they just never wanted to admit how totally broken they are. And that was their mistake. Because oh my, humility in all things. We are broken. We need to fix ourselves. We're broken. And that would have strengthened the military so much, especially off the heels of Vanessa Guillen. To say to her, that would have been such an honor in her name to say, yeah, Richard is the first, the Vanessa Guillen first absent soldier. He's a one under this flow chart, and we messed up, and we're totally broken. And she was brutally murdered, and he was brutally murdered, and we're totally broken. And we are going to hold the people accountable for this. And let me tell you, they would not have a recruiting problem right now. If they would have cleaned up if they would have been humble and admitted and cleaned up the mess they had, they would have gotten so much support. So much. Because we all know that they are totally broken. We all know. And if they would have secured our military installations, and demanded that standard operating procedures needed to be followed, that there were no more Caleb Smithers, that there was no more Austin Hawks, that there was no more Enrique Roman Martinez's. So many soldiers I have in my mind. And we would have a lot less of the suicided, those that were driven to be suicided. Yeah. So thank you so much for your support. We love you. We're burning the midnight oil tonight again. Last night I was a little early. I was like, wow. But yeah, this is amazing that we can do this every night. It's really a gift. And so let's get to the bottom of it and make it count, right? Let's make it count. Okay, everyone, thank you so much. God bless you. And I will be back tomorrow, God willing.